Hey everyone, welcome to our inaugural Spoilercast.
Cheers.
Our inaugural
First
official Spoilercast. We've done them before in the traditional podcast format, but since we don't want our regular listeners and the wide audience to potentially get stuff spoiled for them, we thought, why not just carve this out, do its own thing. People can selectively see in the title what we'll be talking about and choose whether or not they can listen to. And it's just solid content about that topic.
So it's totally their fault if they
Yes, it's your fault. If you download something that says Spoilercast Game of Thrones spoilers, you're gonna get stuff spoiled. Don't bitch to me when you find out that, I don't know, something stupid.
Something happened at a wedding with the start. So what are we gonna be talking about? Like, what does Spoilercast mean? In particular for Game of Thrones, there's a lot of material out there. What does this Spoilercast cover?
So we're specifically covering things as they relate to the TV show, be it the first 3 seasons of the TV show and any events in the book that happened up to the current most recent TV show episode.
Which would be halfway through Storm of Swords.
Yes.
The first 3 books are Game of Thrones,
Clash of Kings, Storm of Swords, Feast of Crows, and I don't know the 5th one.
Oh, we're not touching those anyway.
Yeah, we're not going there.
Yeah. We might touch on little stuff. Like there's a thing that happens later in the books narratively that I find interesting, like the way they tell the story in the later books, and I'm curious how they're going to handle that in the show.
So wait, you read the books then?
So No, I read the entire first one, and I basically skimmed through the second one and the third one. No.
Okay.
So,
well, I was going to say, does the spoiler rule count for the books? Because I haven't read the books, so is it okay if Bernie spoils the books for me?
Anything,
while
up to the show.
Spoilercast?
But
it's related to the show whatsoever.
No, anything that's appeared in the show, we can talk about like how it appeared in the books. And how it was different.
Okay, but if it's in the books,
but not in the show.
But not in the show yet.
Because it makes me wonder
We're
if
not
they're
gonna talk
doing something
about
in
that.
the show.
Correct. If something's
different.
happened in the book that hasn't happened in the show, we shouldn't cover that because we're only covering stuff as it relates to the show.
I totally disagree with that. I totally disagree with that because there's a lot of stuff in the books that's like how Robert Baratheon became king.
But that's
I
different.
wonder if they're gonna.
I feel like that's stuff they're not covering because that's history.
Right. So you say it hasn't been covered in the show. You mean we haven't reached that point chronologically?
Correct.
So we're not covering anything in the books that's after halfway through Storm of Swords.
Correct.
Basically after the events that immediately follow the Red Wedding.
Okay, and what channel is this on?
I know.
So we should point.
Matt's here. We give clarification to Matt. Matt's just going to ask, what are we talking about?
We should point out that we are drinking mead and eating giant turkey legs in honor of this spoiler cast. So I didn't know mead. This is kind of off topic. I didn't know mead was like honey.
It's just
made from honey.
Yeah.
And it comes in bottles that look like wine bottles.
Is mead more expensive now that all the bees are dying?
I don't know.
Is
Is
there,
honey more
like-
expensive?
Whoa, that's weird. I was not
It is
expecting
weird.
that.
It is weird. It's quite odd. And I was just saying, don't they drink wine on Game of Thrones?
Yeah, but they drink mead too.
mead's a little more of a medieval thing, I think.
So, Bernie, you've said what you've read in the book so far.
Well, we should also point out, I'm not a book expert. I started reading the books just because I live with one of those smug pricks who's read the books and always lords that over me every time we watch the show. In fact, we should introduce our smug pricks. Where's Chris?
Chris, get out here if you got a second.
We have our smug prick corner over here that features our people who have read the books. There's Ashley. She's read the books.
She looks like she knows so much.
Yeah, look, she
Look
even
at
has
that.
her iPad
What
there.
do you have scotch? Get out there, Chris. And our other smug prick expert.
He was returning his books.
What do you guys think you're better than us?
Now, what books have you guys read? Have you read everything?
Yeah, I've read all of them many times. They're valuable volumes.
Well, I just read them once.
But you read all 5 books that are out right now?
Yes.
All right.
Paperback, hardcover, digital version?
And I read the little mini story that happens before, like a couple hundred years before.
Oh, what the hell is that?
It's like a story. It's like a 100-page little mini story that covers like some of the history.
Where do you see that?
I didn't know that guy could write only 100 pages. I thought like if he even like gave you directions to get somewhere, it was like 500 pages. Aren't all the books like 1,000 something?
They're pretty thick.
They're crazy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't start off quite as bad, but they really improve over time.
Look at this one. It's unbelievable. It's exactly like this is what every week is like when I watch Game of Thrones.
Does she always have a pipe?
Yeah, and the high back chair. At our house, we do this thing where at my old house, I used to have this big like a media room, but there's no room big enough for that. Oh, I'll take a turkey leg.
Can we get some
I don't know.
napkins? These are messy as
I
shit.
think we need
Give
like
me that one.
I think we're in a towel.
So we've been having a Game of Thrones night at my house for season 3
my
where
God.
we hang the projection screen on the side of my garage,
said-
and we do it outdoors with like a fire pit. Oh, and meats and cheeses. Turkey leg. This thing's hot. Thank you, Kara, for the turkey legs.
The meat is making me really like belchy. Are you guys feeling that?
Get some turkey in
It's
you.
like
Are we feeling
it's
you
like,
being belchy?
Yeah. You have a sense of my gastrointestinal issues going on over here.
So-
I just want to
What-
point out the difference between these characters we admire and the men of today.
Whoa.
Like the men of Game of Thrones, if there was turkey legs on there, they would just tear into them. Gus immediately goes, "Oh, I need a napkin and a blade."
I do. Jordan, what books have you read?
I haven't read any of the books. All I've seen is the show.
Matt?
What books have I read?
Game of Thrones books.
Oh,
Just
is
give us
that
the
what
whole
we're
list,
talking
Matt.
about? What channel is that on? I have not read any of the books, and my wife has read them all.
Okay.
So I have a similar experience that when we're watching the show at home, anything that happens, I go, "Oh my God, what is that?" And she's like, "Oh, you knew that was coming." And I was like, "No, I haven't read the book." She was like, "Oh, right." So it's really unfulfilling to watch it with somebody else who knows everything about it, because I'm always excited and
You see this look a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the look you get.
She always knows what's gonna happen. So I'm just always I feel way behind at all times.
So,
Give
I've read.
us the smug look, guys. That the book readers have. Just the look.
So I've read Game of Thrones, and I'm about a quarter of the way through Clash of Kings, which is season 2.
Okay,
Up
well,
to
The
the
first one
point
has
where
a different name, right? What's the?
Game of Thrones.
It's Song of Fire and Ice.
Yes.
That's-
Is it
that's-
Ice and Fire? or
That's the
Fire and
series.
Ice?
That's the series.
Right.
But it's a Song of Ice and Fire.
Ice and Fire.
Yeah.
So I'm up to the point in Clash of Kings where Arya, Gendry, and Hot Pie have separated from the group heading north to the Wall,
Heading north to the wall.
Okay.
which in itself is something that's really, that encounter is very different. So in reading the books, I've realized that there's a lot more battle, I guess, that they didn't want to film. Like
Expensive.
Yeah, in season 1, when Tyrion leads the Mountain Men out, and in the TV show he gets knocked out and then he wakes up and the battle's over. In the books, he mounts a horse and kills people, like he's
Yeah.
in the combat.
With his
Really?
axe.
Yeah.
And also, doesn't in the show he kills people with a shield at one point?
Yeah.
Yeah, when they get attacked on the road going to the Eyrie.
Yeah. Now here's the other problem too. It's like we got to have some kind of structure to this because we're talking about 3 seasons, 10 episodes, an
We're all
hour
over the
each.
place, yeah.
It's a
Right.
ton of stuff. Real quick, how did you guys discover the show? This is one of those big epic shows that I kept hearing people talking about. I saw the Winter is Coming meme all the time. I was finally like, fuck, I gotta watch this. So Gav and I, when we were taking a trip down to Australia last year to promote RVB, we decided we were gonna catch up before season 2, and we watched all of season 1 on the plane. Like literally on a 14-hour plane ride to Australia, we watched 10 episodes straight of season 1. In fact, Gavin got really upset with me because he fell asleep, and I said, I will not watch episode 10, I promise. I won't watch. And then I became that guy because later when we were both watching it together, I kept up the lie, and watching it, I'm like this the entire time. Watching his reaction, and eventually he picked up and said, how do you, he goes, you watched it, didn't you? Oh, he was so offended by it.
So, like you, I kept seeing people talking about it, but I didn't think I would like it. I avoided it. Season 1, I didn't watch.
Yeah.
Season 2 was more than halfway over before finally I was like, fine,
really?
I'll fucking watch it. And I think we had a box set for season 1 here.
That's right.
At the office. So I was like, can I borrow it? And I
Where'd
went
that
home.
come from?
I think
we-
New Video sent it to us.
You know what?
Yeah.
We bought it as one of the things to look at for potentially basing, like packaging for season 10.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it was.
The
And
10th anniversary box set. It's one
The-
of the designs that we considered.
my first spoiler for Game of Thrones, the company we're talking about is the company that distributes our Red versus Blue DVDs. So they were helping us out trying to figure out packaging, and I was talking to them on the phone, and I hadn't seen the show or read the books or knew anything about it, but they were all like super into it. And one of the women, April, who works there with us a lot, said something like, what's the thing in It's a Wonderful Life, every time a bell rings, an angel gets its wings?
Yeah.
There's some kind of phrase like that every time George R. Martin does something, a Stark dies. And she tells me, I had no idea what that meant because I didn't know who the Starks were, but then once I started watching the show, I was like, I really wish she hadn't said that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I
now
had
you know all these people are going to die.
Yeah, so I had a spoiler from the very beginning.
I knew the phrase red wedding. I knew there was a
Oh,
red
yeah?
wedding coming up at
Yeah.
some point. So every time a wedding happened, I was like,
I'd kind of known about that too, but I thought it was going to be Joffrey and Marjorie's wedding. So
did
I was caught off guard by that. So
I was
still surprised.
Yeah, I was really caught off guard, but I mean, even knowing Starks were going to die before I watched season 1, I was really caught off guard when they actually went through and killed Ned. I was surprised by that. Yeah. But then when
that to me became synonymous as what spoiler meant. Like every time, at every generation, there's like, what is a spoiler? And now clearly it's the Red Wedding scene.
Yeah.
But like, Luke is
that's what I was going to say. When we were kids, that's what it was, for sure.
And then it was some other stuff, I guess, some of the age. But then Sixth Sense became the synonymous spoiler.
Yeah,
like, he's
that's
really
true.
dead.
Is dead.
And then now it seems
Now it's
to me
Red
like,
Wedding.
Like, if anyone talked about Game of Thrones before, it was Ned Stark getting beheaded.
Right.
And now it's the Red Wedding where Robb Stark and
Catelyn Stark.
Catelyn Stark. This is a problem I have with the show, by the way. It is almost impossible for me to not pause every time I go to say a character's name.
Really?
I couldn't get any of the characters' names right.
I don't try to name any of them. I don't try to figure out their names at all. Like two of my favorite characters are the Melty Face guy.
Okay.
And
The Hound?
The Hound?
Melty Face guy.
Sandor Clegane or Gregor?
The
Gregor's
guy
the mountain.
with the thing.
Yeah, well, the other one's the mountain. Like the brother.
Let's ask, let's ask our smug prick.
Him and the girl is Sassy Sneaky Stark. I don't know. No, I don't care. It's Sassy Sneaky Stark.
You like Sassy Stark?
I like Sassy Stark.
You don't like?
No.
She's so sassy and sneaky.
I think Arya might be one of my favorite characters.
Arya is probably like the hero of the show.
I think she's
Yeah.
going to
My
be
mind.
very instrumental later on.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, she's the only Stark left, pretty much, besides Bran.
Bran and
Well,
Rickon.
there's
Rickon finally got a fucking line in season 3 when he didn't want to go to the Umbers.
Well, Bran finally became interesting to me at the very end of season 3.
Yeah.
After being pretty interesting at the very start of season 1, and then not being the least bit interesting.
Yeah.
Bran's Wolfie Boy.
He's Wolfie Boy?
Is that
They're
right?
all Wolfie Boys, but yeah.
But he's big
Bran
time.
is-
He's big time like Dreamscape Wolfie Boy, right?
he's
got
the
dreams,
ward.
Yeah.
He's got broken legs.
Yeah.
Can't walk.
Yep.
The guy, Jamie Lannister, who's my favorite character.
There's Wolfie Boy on screen right now.
Yeah. I think this is the moment where he takes control of Hodor, and this is where like no warg has ever taken control of a human.
No, I think they're
before.
trying to convince him to take control of the wolf, right?
It's somewhere around there. No, they're splitting up. That's why Rickon is shocked.
Little Rickon.
He finally says something.
And also, another thing, in the books, all these people are way younger than they portray them in the show.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, they made the best choice with Dragon Lady.
Daenerys.
Is that Daenerys?
Dragon Lady.
Dragon Lady.
Yeah.
Dragon Lady.
Or should I say, hot, sexy Dragon Lady?
In the book, she
Because
starts out at 13 years
She's
old.
13.
Nice.
That must have been an HBO decision. It was like, no, we're gonna have her naked a lot, so she's not 13.
Yeah.
And that was a good choice.
And I think Robb Stark is supposed to be 16, I want to say, or 15.
I heard 14. As
14.
Yeah, 14, and then he gets older.
Wow.
Smug prick,
cut to-
nodding in agreement.
Yes, Robb Stark is 14, and so is Jon Snow.
They're 14 years old.
14. Wow.
We were talking before the podcast, Spoilercast. One of the things I love is all the little like consistencies in the world that he built. Like all the different houses. All the houses have a motto. All the houses have a mascot. And then
Sigil.
even other things like that. Like we were talking about the bastard's name. How in every different region, bastards don't have a last name. They all have the same last name.
Right.
Like in Winterfell, it's Snow. All the bastards are named Snow. I think in the Eyrie, it's Stone.
Yes.
Yep. That character's not in the show, is it? The woman
No.
who the kid who guides Catelyn Stark up the mountain.
Correct.
Oh, do they have a bastard?
There's
in,
like a
in the book.
Yeah, it's a girl bastard.
and I think in River Run, it's River.
Oh, does that make sense?
Yeah, or River.
Wait, who's
Where the
this?
Tullys are?
Is that the Tullys? Is
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. River
That's
Run.
where Catelyn Stark's from.
Caitlyn's. All right, she's a Tully. Who else is a Tully?
her
The guy
brother,
who got
Liza? Her
married in the
Edmure?
Red Wedding.
Edmure,
and
yes.
he
her
the black
uncle, the Blackfish.
Black
Okay.
fish.
And she has a sister who is
Do
Crazy.
they have?
last name Aaron.
She's
do
the
they have-
crazy one who John Arryn was the hand of the king before Ned Stark, the guy that died that kind of set all this in motion.
Are they involved in the coffee chain at all?
Tully's
Tully's
coffee?
coffee.
No, no.
It's too bad because it's pretty good coffee.
So
Also,
a
to
big
point out
thing-
in the book, Catelyn Stark is a huge bitch.
Oh yeah.
Like, especially the way she treats Jon Snow, she fucking hates him.
Well, they
in the
kind
book.
They
of set
kinda
that
did
up a little
touch
bit in
on-
the
yeah.
first episode, like
Yeah.
where she's, or in the first season where she gets angry at him and doesn't want him in the room with Bran.
Yeah, Bran's like asleep, and she's like, "Get the fuck out."
She complains about him.
Yeah.
But one thing that's big in the show that I guess they have to cut, or sorry, big in the books that I guess they have to cut from the show is how immense the history of
Right.
the world is.
Right.
Like the events leading to the deposing of the Mad King
Yeah.
and those battles
The
are
rise of Robert
referenced and talked
Baratheon.
about constantly.
Yeah.
There's one passage in particular, I think it's in Game of Thrones,
We get,
where
we get Chris back out here.
Chris, there's one passage in particular where I think Ned Stark, it's right before he gets killed, is remembering a battle in particular. And he talks about how it was 7 against 3. And this like great combat where it's like the final King's guards for the Mad King have their last stand and are outnumbered, but they still manage, like there's only 3 of them and Ned Stark is with 7 people. And those 3 managed to kill most of them. The only people who survive are Ned Stark and one other guy.
And what isn't one of the King's Guard Jaime Lannister then?
No. He had fled at that point.
Okay.
Or he was in, that was
He was
that was
probably in
separate.
King's Landing.
So,
with the king.
so Chris, with the pamphlet that you read, how far back does that go, and does it cover that stuff?
It's during when the Targaryens are ruling. It's I think it's a story of just a guy a hedge knight. I think it's called the Hedge Knight, and it's during a what are those things where they run at each other with sticks?
Joust?
It was during a joust.
You're not sounding like a smug prick.
Yeah.
No, I mean a joust.
Attorney.
There you go.
By the way, we should point out for the spoiler cast, there is this implied idea that because it's a spoiler cast, that we're actually really, really well versed in this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
That's not the case.
No.
We're going to be talking about this stuff as
fans.
people who like it and as fans, but at the same level of knowledge that we talk about everything else, just that we're not going to hold back on talking about specific events like Ned Stark being beheaded,
And Robb
you know,
Stark getting arrowed and then stabbed.
and Joffrey being a prick.
Yeah.
Killed my other favorite character, Rose.
Oh yeah, Roz.
Prostitute.
Yeah.
Roz, is that her
Yeah,
name?
Roz.
Yeah, Ross
my
was
favorite character.
not in the book at all.
She's not in the book at all.
No.
No.
Huh.
She's in like one scene, I think.
It's interesting how many like characters from the first season died this season. Like even Commander Mormont was killed.
Yeah.
The Night's Watch guy.
Yeah. That was a
Now,
shock.
wait, that's
Yeah,
the,
it was.
That's the old guy?
Yeah.
The old
That's
guy for
old
the
guy.
Night's
Old-
Watch.
They called him like old bear or something?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Right? I'm not.
And his son,
Okay. And his son is.
His son is Jorah Mormont.
Jorah Mormont.
Yeah, that's crazy. Who is the Dragon Lady's bodyguard?
Right.
Yes.
Right?
Dragon Lady's bodyguard.
And her
That's-
great uncle is the Maester of the Night's Watch.
Yes.
Aemon.
Well, you lost me there.
He's Aemon Targaryen.
Yes.
Who in the book,
okay.
in
He's the other guy at Castle Black.
Yes.
Yes.
In the books, they outline how he was actually in succession to become king, and he would have
Of the in the Targaryen.
of the 7 kingdoms. Yeah.
Okay.
And he had a rightful claim, but he turned it down in favor of taking the black
Yeah.
and going to the wall.
He wasn't he already at the wall in the Night's Watch when
when-
the uprising started?
Yes.
Robert's rebellion. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, he was in line to take the king. I want to say in place of the Mad King.
Oh really?
Yeah, and that the Mad King
Well,
took power.
wasn't the Mad King
Maybe the one before?
the father of Dragon Lady and Dragon Lady's dick brother?
Yes.
Yes.
That scene where what's his name, Blondie got the crown, the gold crown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't stand that guy, but man, what a way to go.
That was
That was brutal.
Yeah,
dude.
so Drogo pours the molten
molten
gold,
golds.
gives him a crown that people, what does he say? That's something people fear to behold or something
Yeah,
like that?
yeah. And then she has a great line like, he wasn't a true dragon. He can't take fire or something like that.
Yeah.
Which
he
was
was
like
not the dragon.
foreshadowing for
Yeah.
what she ends up doing with the
Ugh.
dragon
But
egg.
that scene, there's a couple. I mean, there have been a few scenes in Game of Thrones along the way that just, I don't know,
There's some
like
pretty
cut
gruesome stuff.
right through,
Yeah.
you know. And but it's not just that they're gory,
I like when
but that there's some kind of underlying subtext to them or some kind of symbolism or something. And that the gold one was great. It was just so overwhelming. Such an overpowering
I like
visual.
when the mountain cuts off that horse's head.
Oh, God.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I could have sworn the Mountain got killed in the first season of the show, but he didn't.
No,
he's very alive and
ended up-
active.
Yeah, he fled. Well, not fled, but he was the one who was pillaging the River Run area.
Yeah.
Right.
And then
Ned Stark sent.
Yeah,
what's his
Derek Von
face?
Derek, what's his name?
I think it's. I don't know.
It's Morgan Heckengard.
Derek No, not Bardarian.
It's like Barrick.
What is it?
Beric Dondarrion.
Derek
see?
Dondarrion.
I said Barrick.
You're welcome.
Thank
But yeah,
you.
he was gone for like forever, and then he showed up in season 3.
Yeah, and then Brandon's pointing out they replaced that actor.
Oh, really?
The actor who was Beric Dondarrion, who got sent out by Ned Stark,
Yeah.
is not the actor who plays Beric
Who
Dondarrion
could
now.
remember anyway?
So in the show, Ned Stark sends that guy out in season 1 after the mountain, and you forget about it because he's not in all of season 2, and then all of a sudden he's back. It's
Yeah.
like, oh shit,
Oh,
yeah,
weird.
that guy's still out there.
And he's leading the Brotherhood without banners.
Yes.
You know, he's taking a huge backseat in the show, I think, is Cersei. She was like a huge
true.
part of season 1. And she's, since Joffrey became king and everything else, she's slowly taken a backseat, especially since Jaime Lannister has been kind of missing from King's Landing.
Well, now that he's back, I wonder if maybe if her story will pick up more in season 4.
That was an interesting moment, because I was oddly happy for Cersei and Jaime Lannister when they got reunited. I was like, I'm so happy for them. It's like, then I got creeped out by my own feelings.
Well, you said he's your favorite character. I fucking hate Jaime Lannister. He's such a despicable character.
I'm with you, and
he's really not.
I want to get. This is why I want to get the opinion of the smug pricks on this, because my wife always defends Jaime.
Yeah,
but
I'll
to me,
defend
like
Jaime.
he was like introduced by crippling a kid.
Yeah. The way I think about it is the hand he lost is the hand he shoved the kid out with.
Yeah.
Karma.
Yeah.
Yeah. So smug pricks, what do you guys say?
What are your opinions on
your guy?
Good
Jaime
guy, bad
Lannister?
guy.
Jaime is definitely introduced as a villain, but throughout the series, you find that he, goes through these moments of redemption, and he becomes a much more complex character than just a one-dimensional kid-pushing asshole.
Sister
I
fucker.
agree.
Yeah.
Sister fucker.
Sister fucker.
I mean, ultimately, all of those actions, the incest and the child pushing, are
The
what
incest in the child.
thousands of people die because of it.
Yeah,
That's
that
what
is
starts everything.
That is
That's
true.
what
It is true.
leads to the death of Jon Arryn,
true.
which starts these wars.
Yep.
I mean, think about
How do you say that leads to the death of Jon Arryn?
because Jon Arryn
Found out about them banging.
And that's why they poisoned and killed him.
I thought they meant Bran getting crippled. But I see exactly what you're saying.
And so like these actions,
Bran's
which
a
are
terrible
incredibly
name.
selfish.
But you could argue more people may have died if Jaime had not killed the Mad King, because he was.
yeah, but if he had killed the Mad King and not fucked his sister,
well, yeah.
then
Yeah.
I mean things would have been fine. And he has that moment in the show where he talks about how the Mad King wanted to burn all of King's Landing down, and that's why he killed him.
yeah,
I mean-
the Targaryens were fucking nuts.
they were.
Like he put that what's it called? The fire.
Wildfire?
Wildfire, yeah. Put that underneath the entire city to burn everybody to death. Then there was another Targaryen, I don't know if they talked about him in the show, but in the books, he wanted to become more like a dragon, so he was drinking wildfire.
He drank it once.
Yeah, and he fucked himself up and died.
So wait, what's their geographic location? Where are they from?
King's Landing or Targaryens?
Targaryens.
Targaryens
There
are from
was-
Valeria.
That's where Stannis lives. Stannis took
right.
their
Stannis took
They were
that away.
originally from Valeria, then they came to Dragonstone, which is where
Yeah.
Stannis lives.
Dragon's Reach or Dragonstone?
Dragonstone.
Okay. And that's where
They left and they were like, well, we'll take this land over here. And
So,
they had dragons, so they
An
took it.
interesting thing about that is in the show, there's Harrenhal, and they talk about how
That's-
the dragons melted
Yeah.
it. It's where
Is that great?
It's where Tywin Lannister hid out for a while.
Right. Okay.
So in the books, they go into detail. I'd always been curious watching the show, like what's the story behind Harrenhal? And in the books, they outline how Lord Harren took 40 years to build this fortress. He took slaves from nearby areas, pillaged resources, spent 40 years building it. The day it was done was the day Aegon the Conqueror landed to conquer the Seven Kingdoms, and he showed up with dragons. And it's like
There's no defense for
there's
that.
no defense for that, which is why it's melted.
Well, and so that leads me to ask: is there anybody who can stop Dragon Lady? Because
She's like
she seems like indestructible.
Yeah, she's like the impending storm that everyone, they don't know what's coming, and
that's gonna
they
be
should be
that's gonna be
afraid.
the longest payoff ever.
Yeah.
Well-
like if she steps off the boat in Westeros and somebody puts a crossbow bolt in her chest, like the moment she steps
Yeah.
off, that'll be like the biggest ultimate letdown of all time.
Yeah, really
So,
will.
I mean, I think, all of this is playing out. If she shows up, if those dragons get to maturity, there's no way to stop her.
Yeah.
But, in the
But also,
end,
she's amassing a crazy army now.
she's got a ton of people. What may happen, this is speculation. I have not read this far. Like I said, I'm only in Clash of Kings in the book. Speculation
Yeah.
is that she would show up with the dragons and the army in time to fight all of the White Walkers and the invasion from the north. And then she saves everyone,
Fire and ice.
and then she's king, or queen.
yeah.
Well, it also begs the question watching the show is the Daenerys character, Dragon Lady, why is she so anxious to get back to Westeros? She's kind of this lost character at the beginning of the show. And now at this point, it seems like every season ends with her freeing some city and everyone loving her. I mean, and calling her mother. I mean, she's got it made over there in the East. Is the East really that bad?
I think she's longing for a home.
Yeah, it's like the one thing she has driving her is the thing that was taken away when she was a baby. It's the only thing she knows. Like, she thinks she'll find home
Right.
if she goes
and
to
in the books, she always talks about the house with the red door.
The house with the red door, though, is in the east.
Right, but she's always looking back to a home.
Okay.
Like, that's the home she remembers, but she feels like there's an ancestral home in Westeros that she's trying to return to.
It seems to me like she just underwent a huge shift in her character during the time that she was married to the crazy barbarian guy.
Drogo.
That guy was awesome.
Yeah.
He's married, in real life, that actor's married to, I think, the actress who played Lisa on Saved by the Bell.
Lisa Bonet.
Screech?
Lisa Bonet, sorry. Yeah, Lisa Bonet.
It's really Screech?
No, it's not. What was her name?
You know what drives me crazy is I see the actors in this show, and I'm always thinking of like them in other roles. Like I really had a hard time getting into like the first 5 episodes because I was like, "Shut up, Boromir! What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
That doesn't make any
He
sense.
looks just like Boromir.
Yeah, he looks just like Boromir. What's going on with that? Chris knows what I'm talking about. And then I was watching the show the other night, and it was bugging me. I was a little behind, so I was catching up, and it was the episode where Hodor and Wolfie Boy and everybody are up in the tower.
Yeah.
And the guy with the eagle is like,
The guy
hears
from
him.
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Exactly. I was like, I know who that guy is, and then
Yeah.
like I was like, oh, that's the one-eyed guy with the monkey from Pirates of the Caribbean.
He was also
A war.
Tim in the British version of The Office.
Oh, right.
And then
No,
what's his name?
He's Gareth.
He's Gareth?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's Gareth in The Office. Tim
Gareth.
is the guy
Oh,
who
that's
plays
right,
the
right.
Hobbit.
Tim is the guy who was in Hitchhiker's Guide for the Galaxy.
Right.
The
Hobbit.
original
Oh, no.
Baratheon king.
Robert?
Yes.
Okay.
He's like a British comedy actor too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what. There's the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the dude, the ward who was in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
He's the guy with the wooden eye in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
So an interesting thing that Bernie always brings up about Robert Baratheon is how you don't see this in the show, but in the books they talk about how amazing of a fighter and a warrior he was when he was younger, how he was
Total
like
badass.
super strong, and he would fight with a warhammer and was so strong, even if people were wearing like plate mail, he could cave it in and kill them with the blow from his warhammer.
That's what he did at a battle. You talk about battles that are not in the show that they talk about in the book all the time. This is Battle of the Trident.
Yes.
They talk about that constantly, and it's when the Robert Baratheon was overthrowing the Mad King. Which then, of course, in the show, it seems more like just Jamie Lannister just killed the dude one day.
Right.
But no, there was a huge battle going on, and then the Mad King was going to destroy King's Landing because his whole thing was falling apart, and Jamie Lannister killed him. And in fact, when they showed up at King's Landing and showed up in the throne room, Jamie Lannister was sitting on the throne.
right.
Was that in the show?
Yeah, that was not in the show.
Yeah.
He said he was just.
And there was a tense moment where they have to figure out how they're going to get him off the throne, who's going to take it, and then he
Right.
gets off on his own.
I was just keeping it
So
warm or
explain
whatever.
the Kingslayer is like an epithet, right? Like that's not a good thing.
Nobody calls
When
him
they-
that to his face.
Right.
Yeah.
So is it? And it's because he promised to protect royalty, or what? Why is
His
why is
job as Kingsguard is to protect the king.
No matter what.
Yeah.
it no matter what? So even if the king was a
But-
for,
Crazy
guy.
Yeah, Jamie. The king's telling him to kill his father basically and murder everyone in town in the city. So he kills the king instead, and that's why Ned hates Jamie because he went against his vow.
Yeah,
Even
the
though
oaths are a huge deal.
So-
I mean, look what happened to Robb Stark as a result of breaking the oath. He gets gagged.
He could even, I mean, it would still be questionable, but he could even have stepped aside and let someone else do it.
Kill him.
But the fact
Yeah.
that he's the one who stepped up with the knife and did it is a big deal.
I love all the oaths that, like, the Night's Watch, they're not allowed to have, they're celibate, they're not allowed to have children or families, and then...
or even titles or
or
heirs
anything like that. Or
yeah.
they have no, and like they can't take part in quarrels in the rest of the realm.
Correct.
They're not allowed to take part in those in any way. So like people from like, if 2 houses are fighting, guys in the Night's Watch, they're their own unit, they're their own brothers up there.
Right.
And in fact, it's the way they exploit that stuff is like, did Samwell, the fat kid in Night's Watch, in the show, did they go over his origin as strongly as they did in the book?
They do talk about it
Yeah,
in passing, yes.
That his dad made him take the thing so that he would forfeit all of his rights to heritage.
Right. Yeah. He
And
did
then
mention that.
Tyrion talks about that with Tywin Lannister, where there's a thing in the book always that Tywin always talks about his son, and in front of Tyrion, he talks about his son, referring to Jaime. He never refers to Tyrion as his son.
Right.
Well, there's always like, you always think he's come out with like the most cutting thing he can say to him. In an episode they'll have some kind of confrontation and they'll say, you should have never been born or something like that. And then he always comes up with one that's even worse, like a few episodes later. What was the thing he says to him at the second to last episode? He was talking about
how he shouldn't be alive.
How he shouldn't be alive.
No, he said,
what did
you do for the family?
What have I done for the family? And what I did for the family was not take you out into the ocean and kill you, when you were born.
Tywin Lannister is a great character because he's as devious as Cersei, he's as tough as Jaime, and he's as witty as Tyrion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's like all the kids kind of broke off, and like when he's in the room, you're like, fuck this guy, dude.
And he was also the bad guy in Last Action Hero.
God, you ruined that for me. Yeah. Why'd you say that?
Yeah.
Whenever I look at Tyrion, all I can think of,
bumpus. You just think
you
of
do
that.
a 180.
Whenever I look at Tyrion, all I can think of is the little the children's book author from Elf.
Oh yes, me too.
Yeah.
Me too. What was that character's name in Elf? He had a great name.
Marcus something, I think.
And he wrote like
the Peach
Farm or something. Yeah.
You know, we met Peter Dinklage when we went to the Emmys this year, and we met him.
Smug prick.
And when Ashley shook his hand, what did you say right after you shook his hand? She turned to me.
I'm pregnant.
Yeah, she goes, I'm pregnant now. After she shook his hand. But I said, Mr. Dinklage, just be nice. I said, it's nice to meet you. I said, I really thought you were fantastic in The Station Agent. That was, that's when I first discovered you, and I thought you were awesome in Station Agent. And he goes, but you thought I was shit before then. And I was like, okay. He's being really funny. And
I think it's interesting that he talks with that English accent or whatever.
But he's American.
Even though he's from New Jersey.
Right?
Yeah. I found that baffling too. And he does it in person as well. But he's clearly the star of the show.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
In fact, there was an April Fool's joke this year that I didn't discover till like 3 or 4 days later, so I wasn't in April Fool's mode, where they said that he had left the show and he was being replaced by...
That's the maid.
It is. Let's say it's Game of Thrones. Who is he being replaced by?
I think he was like Minimir Vern Troyer, maybe?
It was somebody else. It was somebody else. There was an April Fool's joke that he had left and he was being replaced
Warwick
by
Davis?
Warwick Davis. That's who it was.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
He was the main character from Willow.
Yeah.
Willow from Willow.
What's the small guy from Jackass?
Oh, Wee Man. That would have been awesome.
Yeah, that would have been better.
Jason Acuna.
So, we were talking about the wall and how the people who take the black are not allowed to marry or take land and things. There's so many small details in the book that I like. One of the small details they have is that there's a brothel near the wall. So despite the fact they're supposed to be celibate, they still go to this brothel.
Right.
And it's like this town that's underground. So when they go, there's like a shack you walk into, then you go down and there's all these tunnels where the brothel is. And whenever they go visit the brothel, they say that they're going to go dig for buried treasure.
Oh.
Which I think is one of the best
nice.
euphemisms for visiting an underground brothel possible.
Who doesn't like digging for buried treasure? You want to sample that one first? The other, I was gonna say before we got off of Tiny Lannister, the other thing from the book that my wife told me about, maybe you guys, the smug bastards, can talk about this, is that in the battle, what's the big battle called? Where he got the peek.
Oh, yeah, the
scar?
battle like Backwater Bay?
The Battle of
In the
Blackwater
book,
Rush.
he actually loses his nose.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is that right?
Well, there's more differences, guys.
There are quite a few differences. Tyrion in the books has both blonde and black hair. His eyes are mismatched. He's supposed to be quite deformed. And then, of course, there is him having his entire nose cut off as part of the Battle of Blackwater Rush. But that obviously would have
That's so good.
taken a lot of long-term makeup for the show.
Chris, you look so awesome with that cognac or whatever you have. The other thing about him too is that I in the book, the parts that I read, Tyrion is also he's a good fighter because they're all trained in fighting, and he's also a little bit of an acrobat because when he first meets Jon Snow, he does a flip,
Really?
flips off of the top of a door.
It would be wrong to make a service joke, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But he always talks about being in pain as well. Mm-hmm. That walking is very difficult for him and stairs and things like that because his legs are so misshapen.
Right.
But I think all the characters are pretty much spot on. There's characters they fleshed out in the show that aren't necessarily a big deal in the book. Roz, the prostitute, is one. Mm-hmm. Shay, Tyrion's girlfriend, now that he's married,
Yes.
in the book, she doesn't even care that he's married. Like she, at least at the parts up to where I've read.
Really?
He doesn't. She doesn't care at all. That she's
I like
married
that in
to
the
Sansa.
show. I think it's a good dynamic. That they have
course.
in the show. It's good.
And the fact that she's Sansa's handmaiden is just brutal.
Yeah.
Scandalous.
Yeah, that would be tough to sit through.
It makes it almost cringeworthy when you see all three of them on screen together. You're like, oh god.
Like when he walked in to tell Sansa that they're getting married and she's there.
That
He's
was
like
that was
trying to tell her
definitely
to leave.
cringeworthy.
Yeah.
That was a great scene when Tywin like lays out the whole plan for who's marrying
Yeah.
who and all that.
Yeah.
And how was it that Cersei got out of marrying Tyrell?
I don't think they've said yet.
She said she's not doing it.
Yeah, she's not doing it. She's out of it.
She's just being stubborn.
Oh, yeah, good
think.
luck with that.
But yeah, I think her father's will is strong
Yeah.
enough to make that happen.
Well, I don't know. It's interesting on the show that this seems like so often in the families, like with Cersei seems like the closest match to the dad, Tywin, right?
Yeah.
Is that right? They like personality-wise, they seem like they're more in line. And with the Starks, the sneaky, sassy Stark,
Arya?
whatever,
Arya.
she seems like so much more like Boromir than the other Starks to me. It seems like they do that a lot in the show, where it's like the girl of the family, and even in the Greyjoy house.
Oh yeah,
They're
it's
not
actually
really
Balon
like
Greyjoy's
yeah,
daughter.
Yeah.
They don't really have the same temperament, but she's tough and she's a fighter.
Yeah,
and
she's
like,
definitely tougher than Theon, I think.
Yeah,
Theon just feels like he's entitled, and she's like, she pays the iron price.
Yes.
yeah. Boy, I was so disappointed they didn't get to the part with her going to rescue
Yeah,
Theon.
season
Yeah.
4 is gonna be awesome.
Man, I'm
She's just
looking
gonna,
forward to that.
She's gonna bust in and beat the shit out of Ramsay.
Yeah, that looks great, man. That last shot they had on the ship, just going around, everybody's getting their shit together, and she looks all badass standing up there on the deck. That's gonna be.
Is that what you want to see?
I would like to see that take place. I think that's gonna be a fun
Yeah,
scene.
I wish there had been closure on that storyline. I don't know why.
Yeah,
I
he
felt
was-
like that was a season 3 storyline. Like you
Yeah.
see Theon, you don't know what's happened to him, and I felt like you were gonna get payoff this
The
season.
only,
Yeah, there
yeah,
was- you just
it's
really-
like they dragged out the Theon stuff for so long. I
Yeah.
thought they did a good job with it, but it just went on for so many.
That's a total
episodes.
addition.
Really, the only payoff
really?
is that
It's barely in the book, if at all, or mentioned in passing, right?
Yeah, it's only mentioned in passing, mostly in flashbacks, and not till book
But-
5, maybe.
Really? Because my wife said something about they went into greater detail about the snip scene.
Well, but it takes place in flashbacks. Like, none of this happens in book 3. You have no idea what's happened to Theon. I think actually the scenes were added to further flesh out Ramsay Snow's character, because in the book he's fleshed out in a different way. They show him like kidnapping a lady, forcing her to marry him, and then like locking her in a tower and letting her starve to death. That sort of stuff. But in
weird.
this
What a nice
show, they
dude.
are using Theon to establish his like psychotic character instead.
I think that in general, the screenwriters for HBO
Yeah.
have to kind of tone down some of the anti-woman sentiment that's in the book. I mean,
Oh,
there's
really?
Like, well, I mean, there's tons in the book. It's like just accepted, and they touch on this in the show. But it's like there's a lot of rape in the book.
Yeah.
It's just like it just happens, and like the girls being 14 and things like that, and it's
Yeah.
just like I know it's supposed to be based on a different time, which I want to talk about in a second. Some of the inconsistencies
Yeah.
of that, but I know it's supposed to be based in a different time, but some of that's hard to watch and hard to read.
Yeah,
Like,
even like when the Dothraki are raiding, talking about like bending women over like piles of corpses.
corpses. That's
And-
the thing to me that stuck
Yeah,
too.
and raping women on top of corpses is like, I mean, it's rough.
And that's where Daenerys first does her thing where she starts setting people free. Where
Right.
she witnesses that.
Yeah.
And boy, that really stuck with me too. Yeah. And so I think they tone down a lot of that stuff
Yeah.
and maybe tone up some of the other like, violence stuff as well. I mean, just even the fact that like, that people get betrothed and like that they just marry off women to like secure a link between two houses. Catelyn Stark was supposed to marry Ned's brother.
Right.
Right.
And then his brother.
And then Ned, to like build his army for Robert's rebellion, married Catelyn so that he could go to King's Landing with more men. Right.
I mean, to secure their link between the Tully and the Stark household.
Yeah.
right.
But all that seems pretty much just like normal medieval royal practices, right?
Except for
Right.
the Targaryens, who only married each other.
Wow.
Right.
Oh, I meant related to like actual
Yeah, yeah.
history.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Daenerys was when she gets first betrothed to Drogo. the Dothraki guy.
Yeah.
In the book, she's thinking like, "Oh, this is my brother. I always thought I'd marry my brother," because that's the way. Then that was like a further thing that was hard for her was that he married her off to somebody else.
Yeah, the Targaryens only married outside when it was absolutely necessary, like when there was no suitable match within the family, because they wanted to keep the bloodline as pure as possible.
Right.
Gross.
She could have been married
So
to,
it's like
to Legolas Jr. or whatever that guy.
the things that Jaime Lannister and Cersei Lannister do would have been okay if they were Targaryens.
Yeah, the Targaryens are nuts.
I'm just saying.
So what
I'm
is
not
the story?
justifying it.
Are they part dragon, or do they just refer to themselves that way?
I don't know that it's been fully fleshed out, but if Daenerys can stand in fire and is immune to it, it makes you think that there is something special about them.
Yeah.
Well, like with the supernatural kind of stuff overall, do the Starks have some kind of supernatural thing
I think
with
most of the
wolves?
supernatural stuff comes
Well,
from
Bran's a warg.
Targaryens.
He's what?
He's a warg.
Like the
What's a
Valyrian.
warg?
He can control animals. Bran can.
That's what you call it, as a
Yeah.
warg?
Warg.
Yeah.
Warg.
What do you think about the balance there too? It's like you can imagine a point in time where Bran will become very important as a warg who can control animals when somebody shows up with 3 dragons.
Yeah.
That could
that's
be.
true.
That could be. There's got to be a reason why they're setting up.
I saw someone talk about how that scene when Bran and Rickon separate, that is an example of a crossroads that the Stark family is at, where Bran.
They got a lot of crossroads.
Yeah,
in the
they
Stark
do.
Family.
Where I mean, they're all that's left on the male side. Where Bran is pursuing this mystical path, going north of the Wall to try to learn about his warg abilities, and Rickon is being taken to the Umbers to
it's like
become
more
a fighter and
self-preservation.
learn how
Yeah.
to use swords. So it's like a traditional path for the Starks versus a mystical path. And Bran is next in line to inherit and succeed the titles and land.
Right.
It's a terrible name.
His name's actually Brandon.
Bran
actually short for Brandon,
Stark. It just
Named
sounds,
after Ned's brother, Brandon, probably.
Yeah.
I think like, Fiber Targaryen. That wouldn't be a good name either.
That, by the way, that is what made the red wedding scene all the more worse. Is
What?
when what's the name of Rob's wife? I never even learned it.
Talisa.
Yeah.
Talisa, really? Okay. When she's like pregnant and she's there, she's not there in the book. She's not in that scene. In the book.
Right.
But in the show, she's there, and they're like, "Hey, we're gonna name the baby Ned after your
yeah.
dad," and it's like, "Oh, I love Ned." And they're like, "Oh, they're great.
Stab.
Stab." And you're like, "What?"
They
the
killed Ned again.
I know.
Yeah.
It's like unfucking believable.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, of things I'm looking forward to, I think everybody's looking forward to the moment when either Daenerys shows up on the coast of Westeros with the dragons.
Right.
Everyone's definitely looking forward to whatever the fuck's gonna happen to Joffrey. However the hell he's gonna get killed. If he gets away and like escapes, that'll be one of the biggest letdowns ever. You just know he's gonna go out like a total bitch. You know he's got to, right? But the thing I'm most looking forward to, I think, is the red wedding scene, which we have up there, is whatever the fuck happens to Walder Frey. I hope it happens soon.
Yeah.
You know, the guy who orchestrated
I'm
the
sure
red
he'll
wedding.
get his comeuppance.
And by Walder Frey, you mean the janitor from Harry
Argus
Potter.
Filch. Correct.
Stop.
Yeah, he's really a despicable character, and you definitely want to see him get his comeuppance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting is that your shirt, Hodor, Hodor's name is not Hodor.
Yeah.
Right.
It's Walder.
They just call him Hodor because it's the only thing he says.
'Cause it's the only thing he
and
says.
no one knows what it means.
And no one knows why he says it.
Brandon and I had a funny conversation about Hodor yesterday, which was in the last episode when Sam shows up and meets Bran and Hodor and everyone, and he goes, "Oh, I've heard all about Hodor," and Hodor's just like, "Hodor." It's like, what did Jon tell Sam about Hodor that made him?
I was so happy. It took a long time. It was very close to the end of book 1 when I finally encountered a sentence in the book that was literally, Hodor said Hodor. I was like, yes, I'm done. I can stop reading now.
I like that fake chapter that somebody posted on Reddit, which was like the Hodor chapter, and it was just Hodor, 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 Hodor.
Who's the hardest character for you to keep straight? Like the characters.
I don't have a problem keeping characters straight, but I cannot for the life of me remember the name of the Bravosi man that Arya freed from
Jagan
the
Hagar?
prison. Him.
Jagan
who
Hagar.
then helped her escape Harrenhal.
What does Varamagulis mean? What is that? Is that what is that? Am I saying it right?
It's
Other people
it's
say
a Valerian phrase. I
Other people
believe.
say it all the time.
Brandon in my ear is telling me all men should die.
All men
Smug
should
pricks. Do you know what Valar
Yeah.
Morghulis means?
Valamagulis?
Yeah, I think it's all men die or something like that. I'm looking it up.
die. All men die.
Yeah.
All men die. So.
It's some sort of like just saying, I think.
Yeah, and we're talking about the Faceless Man that Arya befriended.
Yes.
I think at the
Killed
end
3
of
people for her.
at the end of season 2, Jagan Hagar changes his name as well, right?
Yes,
as well as
because
his
he
face.
reveals his real name.
Yeah.
And gives her the coin,
Yes.
Right.
you know.
Which he then uses to trick
Oh
the
yeah.
Frey men.
Were they Frey or Boltons?
No, they were Frey, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then kills them.
Yeah.
So in the
That
book,
was
Boy,
awesome. I cannot wait for like the adventures of the Hound and Arya. They're gonna have like so much fun together.
That was brutal when she stabbed that dude. We're talking about the guy that sewed the wolf head on Rob's body.
we claim to, yeah.
Yeah, he claimed to be the person.
In the book, like I just got to this part.
Oh,
where-
here it is. Here it is.
oh.
Holy cow.
Where she is, where the part where they separate, like where their caravans attacked, they have to defend a holdfast against people who are attacking with the Lannister crest, and she kills like 4 dudes at that point.
Really?
The best part of that
like
scene.
she's killing people consistently at this point.
The best part of that scene is like the Hound asks, "Where did you get the knife?" And he's like, "From you." And he like looks in his pocket like surprised, like he didn't notice her take it.
Yeah.
And
She's sneaky.
it was like
What'd I say?
Sneaky sassy Stark.
Yeah.
and then he says, "Next time you do that, let me know."
Let me know. That's
Yeah.
So yeah, it's great because you think they're gonna have like some cool
They just need a
adventures, just
theme
murdering
song now.
people.
Ba-dum-ba-da-da-da-dum.
Yeah, it's like the Hound and Arya, come like the couple.
And so you see Arya whisper
She's
to him, and
gonna
he's
murder
like, "Fuck!"
somebody.
He just starts stretching.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, "Okay."
She like points to a guy, he's like, "Those guys."
He's afraid of fire. Woo.
But
Family's dead.
somebody on Twitter wanted to know what was the moment that you solidified you as watching the show that like you love this show and it's.
It was the first episode. The way the first episode ended.
Yeah, the
when-
first episode starts slowly.
Right. I was not sold on the show until the end when Bran gets pushed out. I was like, I fucking hate that guy. I need to see what happens next.
Yeah, well, yeah. Then you're like, what
Yeah.
happens?
I was always impressed with how much nudity they could fit in to every episode. It's unbelievable.
It's like that SNL sketch. They
It
did
is.
every
Do we have that? There's like
we-
at any time, you know, characters will be talking about something, and then just there are boobs.
Yeah, just boobs.
It's unbelievable. And then somebody's head gets cut off. But
If it's not Game of Thrones, but if you ever watch the Spartacus series, I think they have a higher boob per minute
They might,
ratio.
they might, yeah.
But
Chris-
they also have a much higher dick per minute ratio.
Oh,
So you got to be
We're
ready
gonna
for
take
that.
the good with the bad.
Yeah.
Chris Hardwick calls Game of Thrones tits with a, or dragons with the chance of tits, or tits with the chance of dragons.
We were on a podcast.
Tits with a chance of dragging.
Yeah.
We were on with the podcast we did with them. We started referring to it as murder tits as well.
yeah.
I think, which is a good name for it.
Yeah.
So we haven't really been checking the Twitter feed. Is that what you're doing right now? I don't know.
Yeah,
if
I'm
there's
looking
anything.
over this a little bit. I'm looking
So
over it.
the website we normally use to monitor Twitter doesn't work anymore. So
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, the thing that locked me in was when you talk about Arya killing 4 people. She got Needle. Like they set up
Right.
her getting Needle. Like that was a big deal, and she was going through all the fencing lessons.
I wish she would get it back.
with the dude in King's Landing. Like, where is Needle? What happened to
Some guy, I think a Lannister took it, or somebody from the Gold Cloaks or something.
when she was in Harrenhal, it was taken.
Yeah, that's right.
And
One of the Lannisters.
I remember when Ned is literally on the chopping block up there, and she's going through the crowd with Needle, and I was thinking, I'm like, how's she gonna do it? Is she gonna get up there and like stab Joffrey?
I thought
Or is she
there
gonna
was
get up there and cut
yeah.
him loose? Is she gonna? Oh, they cut off the guy's head. Oh,
Yeah.
never mind.
Yeah.
It was like that,
Yeah.
and I thought, wow, that was unexpected.
I remember thinking, like, up until the last possible moment, like, there's no way Ned Stark's gonna
Yeah.
die.
Yeah, it's
He's
guy-
too good of a
he's guy on
dude.
the poster. There's no
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then
so-
you remember it's Sean Bean.
In so the person who's there in the TV show who grabs Arya and takes her is Yoren. He's the guy who takes all the people going up to the wall.
Right,
He's
yeah.
Take
Black
the black.
Watch.
Yeah,
Right.
he Night's Watch.
Night's
He
Watch,
in the book they set up that he's there. He was supposed to have left by that point with his people. The only reason he was still there was he was told that Ned Stark was going to take the black,
Right.
and he was there to collect Ned Stark and take him.
That was Cersei's idea. She
Yeah,
was
and
like,
then-
you know,
no, it
just let
was-
him take the black.
Yeah, right. And then Joffrey at the last
Joffrey
second
was like,
changes the plan
Blah, 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 blah.
and has him beheaded, which is why then they don't fully explain this, which is why in the book Tyrion goes after Janos Slynt, who was
What?
the city the head
a made-up
the
name.
head of the city guard who inherited Harrenhal. And then Tyrion has him taken away early
That was
in
like
season
some
2.
season 2 shit, right?
Yeah, it was season 2.
Yeah, I remember that. He's like whining and dining him, and then he's like,
He's like, yeah,
you're done.
because he wants
takes
to,
him
because he
away.
thinks that there's people who have allowed Joffrey to make poor decisions and who are working against the crown in that manner.
Right.
So he removes them. Which is why he also sets up that plot where he tells Varys, Littlefinger, and Pycelle
everyone
3
the
different things
plots.
to figure out where the information's getting out
Exactly.
from.
Yeah, I remember that. That was a good part in season 2.
I thought that was really well cut together, where he's like the different names. And
he's going
like,
to Pycelle telling him this, going to Littlefinger telling him that, and then
Pycelle's the super old dude on the small council.
Yes.
Somebody on Twitter was criticizing us for eating roasted turkey legs because turkeys are not indigenous to Europe, and turkey legs didn't exist during medieval times, which I guess is probably something he learned to make fun of people at the Renaissance Fair, I guess. But I want to point out that this is not actually medieval
Europe.
It's a completely made up realm.
Yeah.
And I had a moment like that where Varys, apparently King's Landing is very hot, and in the first book, the first season, Varys has drinks with Ned Stark, and he offers him iced wine. They have iced wine. And it ruined that scene for me because, like, where the fuck do people in this time frame get ice? Like, you don't just get ice.
Maybe it's a luxury. It's a sign of their status.
How do you even?
They have
How do you
ice.
ship it? Like, even like that's so slow. You can say it's a luxury and then get it like sent in, but it's like it would melt.
Right.
Yeah.
Did they like fucking tow a giant iceberg out to King's Landing?
It's one of those things we
They
definitely
could.
take for granted in a modern era.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, they had ice delivery in the old days before you could make ice in
That's
a
true.
But they had
freezer.
electricity.
Yeah, I mean, you could keep it.
Once we had
but it
refrigeration,
still came
they
in
could
a,
make ice.
Yeah, but I'm saying it was still transported
Oh, yeah, it's
over a
true.
distance. So, just had a big block and it gets smaller on the delivery. But
Yeah, but I feel like that's months of delivery potentially.
it is, yeah.
Wow.
See, if you ever met an older person, they'll call a refrigerator an ice box
An ice box, right.
Yeah.
because they had the apartment where the food went, and a big block of ice would go in the other
Right.
the other compartment. But yeah, in medieval times,
That's
like
interesting.
ice in your drink is like that's not just something you can do.
Yeah.
But obviously, when there's fucking dragons and Valyrian steel, you shouldn't worry
They can
about it
figure
too
it out.
much.
Right.
Yeah.
Did they ever
what's the
explain
deal-
in the show Valerian steel that it's like magic steel?
They toned down
It's
the
like-
magic stuff in the show, I think, a little bit. But yeah, Valyrian steel is spell strengthened steel.
Right.
And he talks, even the Smiths talk about, I had so many spells cast on it.
Like everyone in the show says, "Oh, it's Valerian steel," and
Right.
it's like, "Oh, what the fuck does that mean?" You got to like seek out this information, and
So-
it's like
I got
it's
a bunch
high
of-
quality steel with magic.
So-
So
a
can
bunch
I,
of sediment
can I
and
change
shit.
can I change the subject slightly?
Please do.
Because I
How
don't,
much?
Yeah.
Well, not to a different movie or a different
Oh,
TV
okay.
show.
Let's talk
Let's
about
talk
Jaws.
Who's been watching Mad Men? No, the zombies. What's up with the zombies? I don't.
Yeah. White
I don't
Walkers.
understand the zombies.
The White Walkers.
Am I not supposed to understand
there's
the
two,
zombies
there's two
yet?
things there. There's the others, and there's the White Walkers. And those are two different things.
Okay, the
Talking
White
about
Walkers.
The others
You're
are
talking
like the
about
giants,
wildlings?
right?
The white.
Are the others the wildlings?
Well, like,
No,
what are
no,
you
no,
talking
no,
about
no.
when you say the others?
I
The
think-
others are what I consider to be like the thing with the blue eyes that Sam
Those are
killed.
White Walkers.
Those are White Walkers.
Yeah, I thought those were White Walkers.
I thought the
Oh.
others were giants.
I'm confused by that.
Right,
then.
there are giants. I forgot about the
Yeah.
giants. They're giants.
Yeah.
There's so many things.
Or
There's
the
giants.
others, or the giants are controlled by the others. I don't know.
What
So
are the
what is the
others?
deal with the White Walkers?
Smug pricks. Do you know what the others are? Or has that been revealed at this point in the books?
Well, so there's basically two levels of the White Walkers and the others. There are the ones with the blue eyes, the black hands, all that, and then there's those ones make basically the lesser White Walkers.
By killing men.
Yes, men. But you also notice you'll have seen during some of the marches horses and dead animals,
Right.
dead mammoths, that kind of thing. Anything that dies in the ice, basically they can take.
Well, there you go. So it's like the white.
Chris, you don't look comfortable.
The other.
like maybe you were enjoying this at first, and now you just look like you should be feeding Ashley
So-
grapes or something.
Brandon's telling me that he thinks that the scene with Sam was huge when he kills the White Walker because it's the only indication that they're not invincible. But I disagree because Jon Snow killed
Fire.
the White Walker with fire
Right.
in Mormont's chambers.
But I would argue
did
that
kill-
killing them with obsidian or dragon glass is a lot easier because
Right.
they just burst suddenly. Like it's
Also,
Yeah.
based on what our smug pricks just said, that he killed a dead Night's Watchman who came back.
But he still had the blue eyes, right?
Did he have blue eyes? Did that guy have
Yeah,
blue eyes?
because in the books, Jon Snow talks about being haunted by those deep blue eyes constantly.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. Yeah, but it also seems like, man, that dragon glass is like a smart bomb. I mean, it's just like, just jab them and they just shatter
Yeah.
to pieces. It seems like you're all set. You know,
Yeah.
you can do whatever you need to do.
I'd forgotten why that was such a big deal.
Does it
because-
break this thing too?
No.
I don't think so because he dropped it.
Yeah,
It's so
he
funny
dropped
in
it.
that scene where he stabs the guy. That was everybody's reaction at Game of Thrones night at my house was like, "Pick that up! What are you doing? Pick it up! Pick it up!"
Yeah, I thought he had dropped it too, but then when they're in the tower,
had
you
it,
see
yeah.
like, oh, he's got a bunch of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He took more than one.
And he had like arrowheads too.
So, where does dragon glass come from?
It's obsidian.
Obsidian. Okay.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
like if so.
So it comes from
based on Minecraft. If you dig down far enough, you eventually get
It's
it.
where lava
Cool.
meets water.
Still water.
Still water, yes.
Yeah, but I'm really looking forward to season 4. The good news is I think they've already started shooting season 4.
Yeah.
They like
really?
immediately went back into production.
Yeah. The day after episode 1 of season 3 premiered, they officially announced that season 4 was greenlit. But it's like
You knew it was
you
going
knew
to
it was going to happen. I
Do you think it's going to be the same like premiere time, like around April 1st?
I bet.
Yeah.
God, that'd be great.
I don't want to wait that long.
Well, listen, dude. These big mega shows that come out now, and I think Sopranos started it. And James Gandolfini just died. We're recording the Spoilercast in mid-June. But Sopranos they had great seasons. I found out about that show via award ceremonies because it started winning all those cable Ace Awards back when those existed, I think. And
So
everybody
I
was
found
talking.
Homeland.
It's actually a big reason why they don't exist because I'm pretty sure, unless I misremember, that the Emmys decided to start including cable programming because of shows like The Sopranos.
Yeah.
We're now getting much better than what was on network TV. And the same deal is that they got so popular, and then they started this like trend of a year and a half between seasons, which is just unheard of.
Yeah. Like Curb Your Enthusiasm has been off the air for like 3 years.
Mad Men did the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember at the time Sopranos I thought was the worst because they would do a year and a half, and now it's
I
like
get,
nothing.
Right.
I guess it could be worse then, like waiting
so
for Game of Thrones.
We're
Could be
at,
worse.
I just want to point out we're at the hour mark. Are we gonna wrap this up here?
Sure. Well, it's
We
Twitter
didn't really
one
talk
last
about
time.
the Red Wedding in our
Why don't we talk about it? So
I feel like that's prolific enough. Everyone knows that, right?
Yeah, but I feel like a lot of people wanted to know what we thought. We were surprised.
I was shocked. I was totally caught off guard.
Yeah.
Were you really?
Yeah.
Part of the reason why I started reading the books is people started pre-spoiling to me on Twitter and on our website about this kind of stuff. And it's not so much that they would say, oh, this coming episode, there's going to be a wedding, and Robb Stark and his mom are going to be killed at the wedding.
Right.
Yeah.
They do this thing where, hey, I'm not going to spoil it, but wait till halfway through this next episode, something amazing happens and blow your mind. It's like, don't fucking tell me that.
I
Don't
hate
do
that.
That's
I
almost
hate
worse.
that.
Like, oh, you thought Jamie Lannister's hand getting cut off was bad? Oh, he haven't seen anything yet. Like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
I thought it was shocking, not just because of the characters that they chose to kill off, but it was so brutal the way they
Yeah,
did it. Like we were talking about earlier with coming up and killing the unborn child
Right,
first,
yeah.
and then, they were
Well,
watching it now.
So
Do you think
Or the
like
aftermath.
Robb Stark is a very important character because like you could argue like thematically he represents like justice in the world because he's trying to avenge his father's death and get at the Lannisters. Like he doesn't want to be king or anything. He just wants justice.
he does. He's happy being called king in the North, though.
Well, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
But and then
And-
to just kill him off, it's surprising. But
Well, and also he seemed like a bigger. I guess this is part of the shock, but he seemed like a bigger character.
Right, like he
than
was
than the
invulnerable
guy
to
who
that.
killed him. You know, where the guy
Yeah,
who ordered,
totally.
ordered his execution.
what I find interesting about that episode is like the Lannisters never appear in it.
but they control the whole thing.
But like you still end up being angry at them because they did the whole
Yeah.
their whole plot.
yeah.
Also, something.
What are you smiling about?
I
over
love
there?
the internet. Somebody just corrected me. They said, Bernie, it's not called iced wine because it has ice in it. It didn't have ice. It's made from frozen grapes. Where the fuck do they get frozen grapes? How do you freeze
How do you
grapes?
freeze the grapes?
Well, people like frozen grapes.
And I want to make a quick correction. Lisa Bonet is actually from The Cosby Show, not Saved by the Bell.
Oh.
I said that much earlier.
Wow.
Wow, how did I get to Lisa Bonet then? Because you said that.
Because I said Lisa. I was
The
getting
character
confused.
on Saved by the Bell was named
Lisa.
Right.
Right, but
Right.
it was actually
Lisa
Lisa
Bonet was
Bonet.
on
I ended up at
Yeah.
the right place.
But Jon
That's good.
Snow is still played by Screech. Am I wrong about that?
All right, so thanks everyone for watching. Hope everyone enjoyed. Hope everyone enjoyed our first.
Don't even show that.
Our first
I have more I want to
Spoilercast.
say, but whatever.
We'll hopefully do this on a semi-regular basis as things pop up that we think warrant it.
Join us for the next Dragon Cast.
People are
Cheers.
very clearly want to correct something before at the end that the others are the White Walkers and they animate dead men, and they're called whites. Is that what I'm saying?
Oh,
right?
whites. Okay,
Whites.
yeah.
And and so that's what John killed. John killed a white.
Gotcha.
W-I-G-H-T. That was killed by apparently a White Walker.
Okay.
Why is the G silent?
Because English. Bye.
George,
Cheers.
take off your shirt.
Okay.
It's Game of Thrones. Somebody's got to show some skin.